28th
7.
and April 27th, I'm sorry. And we'll call this Finance Committee meeting to order. We are, from my perspective, kind of moving into one of the more interesting phases of the last 2 years, in that, as you'll note, we have 3 members of the new regime online with us, and we want to thank all of them for coming. This is kind of a meet and greet. There's nothing will be required of you tonight that will make you sweat or uncomfortable, I'm fairly sure. But Charlie and Lisa and Mary are coming closer by the minute to the end of their time with us and the resolution of the issues they were hired to resolve. I'm reasonably confident, and when Charlie gets on, he may want to speak to this more when we do the financial forecast, about the timing of things like when the auditors will be in. Oh, there he is. And so on. But to the degree that he can, understanding that certain things are imprecise at this moment. But we are about to go through that transition, through that door from what we've been going through for the last 2+ years to whatever the future is, hopefully with a lot more accountability and transparency and so on. But, you know, that's the deal. We do not have, I mentioned to a couple of people before everybody got on, I forgot to ask Karen to send out the minutes. She has them, and I just neglected to request them. So we'll do the minutes for February 23rd at our next meeting, along with the minutes for this meeting. It's not unprecedented, so thank you for understanding. The next bit on the agenda, I'd like to switch it around just a little bit. It was the status of the financial forecast and whatnot from Charlie, but I think it's fair to say that's going to take a little bit of time. Beyond that, there are a number of articles in the warrant that we can vote on. Charlie and I met yesterday and talked through the warrant to say what's ready to go and what's not. Some of the big ones obviously are not, but like the operating budget, but there are a number of articles we can address. And if we get those done tonight, we'll have a shorter meeting in May having to deal with the warrant when it is finalized and as thorough as it can be. But what I'd like to do, with your permission, is bump up the introduction of the new leadership team to the first item after minutes, because I think, to be respectful of their time and the fact that they're joining us, that's the right way to go. So having said that, the members of the leadership team who are with us tonight are Rich Waldo, the new town administrator, Nick Robertson, the new town accountant, and Cameron Scott. It sounds like such a theater name, you know. It sounds like the director, Cameron Scott's new movie, our new treasurer. And I'd love to just give you each a couple of minutes to say hi, and also if you've thought about it, what your goals are for assuming the position, so to speak, and you know, starting the next phase. Rich, would you like to go first?
Yeah, absolutely, Fred. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. You know, my name's Rich Waldo. I'm actually a resident of Wellfleet. I'm not a voting resident. I'm actually just a, let's just say a tenant of Wellfleet right now until things change on May 31st, when I actually become employed by the town of Wellfleet. I won't be held under a residency requirement of my current job, where I have to live in Provincetown or Truro. So I own a home in Truro. That's where my residency is, but I spend my days and nights in Wellfleet at my partner's house, my life partner. We have 2 kids together. We live on Coles Neck Road. You might have seen us sometimes out working in the yard with the ones that have 2 goats on the way to the transfer station. That's our house right there. You know, we love living in Wellfleet. I first moved here in 2005 and, you know, right out of university, and I never left. I just loved the area. And it's funny, when I moved to Wellfleet, I was living in a big city. I was in Montreal. I lived in Montreal for 7 years, you know, lights, sounds, sirens. And then I moved to Wellfleet in February of 2005, and it was just absolutely quiet. And, you know, it was just the strangest feeling where the silence was actually keeping me up. But over time of just going out there and, walking the beaches and walking the wooded trails in the back, I just slowly, fell in love with this area and really adjusted my habits to living on the Outer Cape. I took up sailing. I became an avid sailor. I'm now part of the Provincetown Yacht Club. I was rear Commodore for a while. It was just one of those things, you get to learn the environment you're in. And over time, I transitioned from an engineering degree that I got up in Montreal. I became an engineer. I surveyed, pretty much from everywhere from Orleans to Provincetown. And in 2012, a job opportunity opened up in Provincetown for the Deputy Director of Public Works. And I decided at the time, let's give it a shot. And I did. And I got into the public sector. And again, just one of those life choices that sends you in the right direction. And I just instantly just really enjoyed working with the public. I enjoyed actually producing things, making things happen. If you know anything about Provincetown, in the last 10 years, we've undergone a lot of capital projects from roadways, stormwater, to sewer, to water expansion, just a lot of big projects that we undertook. And although at times very challenging, very tough, very difficult public process, lining up the funding, but at the end, when you're able to deliver something, you actually get that feedback from the public that there was no better feeling. So building on that, I decided to go back and get my master's degree in public administration, not with the idea that I'd be a town administrator or a town manager, but just the hopes to actually improve my skill set at the job I had as public works director. And the town administrator position opened up in Wellfleet. I thought about it for a little bit. I was very happy to see Charlie was in there because I had some experience working with Charlie, and I knew if there was anyone that was going to be able to set things straight and build off of, it was him. And then I started to see Cameron, and for those that don't know, me and Cameron actually are in the Masters in Public Administration program together. So we actually know each other. And I saw him got on board, and then I saw Nick was in the running for a town accountant. Nick comes from Provincetown. And for me, that was just a sure sign that, hey, this is the time. This is the time to make the move. I've done a lot in Provincetown, but I feel that it's time for the next challenge. So being in Wellfleet or transitioning over, which for all of you, my start date will be May 31st, right after Memorial Day. I'll jump into things. It's going to be a good little ride in the beginning for sure. There's a lot of things on tap. My goal here is really to just bring success, open up that communication dialogue between the public, between the boards, between the residents, and really just show a lot of transparency that we all rely on in just a good government, and be able to build a strong team, keep the workings of town staff in a good position so we can actually produce. And there's a lot of good projects coming up in Wellfleet, and I want to make sure that those get done successfully. And that's my 2 minutes.
Do you speak French?
What's that?
Do you speak French?
Je parle un petit peu français. I speak
7 years, you didn't learn French in Montreal?
You know what? One thing I realized is I have a very thick Boston tongue, and I took it. My first class was an advanced French course, and I was the laughing stock of that class. And my tongue just didn't work. It was the Boston accent, but I tried. I certainly tried.
Thank you, Rich. Nick or Cameron, who'd like to go next? Cameron?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go. Hi, everybody. My name's Cameron. I started March 7th as treasurer here. I'll give you a little background about myself. Grew up in California, but I went to college in Rhode Island, and I've been coming to the Cape my whole life. Both sides of my family spent their summers on the Cape, and we always came in the summer and for Christmas, and my parents met here. So I still have a lot of family here. And after college, I bounced around in Boston, Providence, and Charlottesville, Virginia, and then I moved back here maybe 15 years ago. I moved here. I never lived here. Moved to the Cape about 15 years ago. And I eventually found my way to Barnstable Superior Court, where I was in the criminal department for about 5 years. And then for the last 5 years, I was their head account clerk. So I handled all of their accounts, all of their money. And I have been in the program with Rich for about 2 years and really enjoyed getting to know all these people in municipal government. And there really wasn't any opportunity for me to advance where I was, aside from moving back to Boston. So I was looking to join the municipal finance world for a few months, and this opportunity popped up. I applied. Seemed like a great fit. I'm just excited to be here.
Oh, thanks. Can I ask you a question? And no answer is a perfectly reasonable answer on this because you haven't been in place all that long yet. In the time that you've been here, or in the run up to you starting here, from a treasurer's perspective, is there a particular challenge or set of challenges that jump out more than any others?
Well, just going through the entire office that I took over, nothing's written down. There's no direction on how to do anything and how anything was done in the past. And there's a lot of missing things. So I'm just trying to put all the pieces together and build a network, a professional network of people I can depend on, other treasurers, people obviously who work in Wellfleet as well. So I cannot repeat the mistakes that have happened in the past. But anything specific, nothing jumps out. There are tons of things that I've been going over with Mary, and I'm just still learning.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Nick? Robertson?
Yeah, hi, how are you? Hi, Fred.
Hi.
I'm Nick Robertson. I moved to the Cape in 1999, moved to Provincetown. My wife and I ran a store. We bought what was called the Emporium back then. Ran Traders Village, then ID for a couple of years. We moved out of retail, and I worked out of that office for about a year, and then the opportunity came to work in Provincetown. I was hired as the accounts payable clerk, and kind of worked my way up to assistant town accountant. We had some gaps between finance directors and town managers, so it kind of forced me to kind of quickly learn a lot of stuff. And then when Jose came on as finance director, she really helped kind of mentor me and kind of got me involved in taking classes and learning the accounting side of municipal finance more thoroughly. I live in North Truro, and I was kind of looking for the next step in my career, and the position opened up in Wellfleet, and it sounded like a good next step for me. I was also kind of excited about the I don't know, I guess at the time it might have been a rumor, but I knew Rich was interested in possibly applying. I was really looking forward to, if he did get selected, working with him. It would be a big positive. I'm just really looking forward to being there. I'm already very much enjoying it. I like the challenge. I like a challenge, and I think it's going to be a good, it's going to be very interesting, very exciting to be at the start of something new. Charlie, Lisa, and Mary have done a lot of work to kind of fix things, and they're really setting us up to succeed. And I think the team that's going in there will take it and run with it and make it better. And I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Charlie, can
Fred?
I jump in? May I jump in? Nick
Yes.
Robertson.
Hi, Kathy.
My hair color. Welcome.
I know, it's been a long time. I was going to say, you and I were used to coming in and swooping in and fixing things.
Yep. Nick was executive director of the Provincetown Business Guild, where I served on the board of directors for probably 7 years. We cleaned up a lot together.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, welcome to all three of you. But Nick, I looked and I said, I wonder if that's Nick. And I wonder if he's going to realize my hair is a different color. Welcome.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Rich or Cameron or Nick?
Fred, I just want to say hello to Nick.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Nick and I worked together in Provincetown, and he's a great addition to Wellfleet. I couldn't be happier to have him here.
Thank you.
I got to say, my sense is this whole team is a great addition to Wellfleet, and the fact that you're either going to school together or know each other has got to be a plus in terms of not being afraid to walk down the hall and talk, which I think has been an issue at times. The other thing I would say from the perspective of the Finance Committee, besides thank you for coming tonight, this really was only a chance to, put faces on names, but also that the Finance Committee in Wellfleet has been transitioning its own role over the last 18 to 24 months as it's become obvious that we needed to. And part of that is meeting regularly with all three of you potentially, but certainly with you, Rich, at our meetings, and maybe Nick as accountant. As we go forward, it would be really nice to kind of get a regular state of the town report, just so we know where we are year to date and if there's any issues that have come up that were unanticipated. So with that,
I was going to say, Fred, the way we worked with FinCom is we used to do monthly reports and send them off to FinCom so they could, see the expense revenue and year-to-date balances. So I'm kind of used to providing that sort of information to FinCom for them.
Great.
So
and I think
it's something that I think should be done in Wellfleet too.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, it's one of the issues last year, for example, when we were doing the budgets with the departments, is they didn't know what their actuals were year to date at that point because of how the books were messed up. So that was noted, and hopefully it's getting fixed. And once fixed, we'll have this communication on a regular basis, hopefully. Thanks. Anybody else?
I would just reiterate, I mean, that's this transparency is part of the things that we're hoping to kind of shape to make sure that we don't have the same pitfalls that we've had in the past here in Wellfleet. And I think by, showing that, those revenues, the projections, the receipts, the expenses, a little more transparently, not, amongst just us, but, in terms of the administration, but also with Finance Committee, Select Board, and basically until we can actually restore that confidence with the public that we need. Again, I look forward to getting in there on May 31st and really just starting to get a good assessment on where we are, where we need. I know for the next 30 days, I'll be talking to Charlie quite a bit, with the exception of 1 week vacation I left for myself to actually go somewhere. But, really just kind of get into this, adapt to it, because town meeting's right around the corner. And, that's why I really appreciate, Fred, you reaching out and welcoming me to this meeting, just so I can actually just start putting my ears to the grind pretty early into, this job transition. So, I agree with that recommendation.
We're happy to be used whenever. And I would say just in general about this meeting thing, it's a point that gets lost every once in a while. The Finance Committee will ask questions, hopefully from a sound financial perspective, but the answers that happen in this meeting are public. This is a public meeting. If people want to know what's going on, at least from a financial perspective, all they have to do is dial in. So this is an opportunity for anybody who comes in and talks about their department or the state of the town to get your story out, essentially. I mean, just say, hopefully an accurate one, but to say this is how things are. There's so much FUD out there. There's so much misinformation that floats around. This is a chance to make it right, in my opinion. So thank you very much.
Can I say one quick thing?
Quick.
To reinforce what Fred was talking about, as a board, as a committee, FinCom, whatever we are, we've just gone through a pretty traumatic period, and the town pretty much lost financial control, and we weren't even able to necessarily alert people to know about it. I just want to say that Charlie shared with our committee spreadsheets that went into forecasting. That was the most illuminating presentation of the information. I just hope that we're going to be able to continue with that kind of communication between us. So and welcome, guys. We're so happy to have you guys on board.
Thank you so much. With that, I'd like to segue to the next item on the agenda, which I suspect could take anywhere from 30 seconds to 30 minutes or more, depending. It's hard to say. The document in question, I would say, is the financial forecast document, at least that. And then there's another one that's the financial plan, which segues into the questions that might come up with the warrant. But I'm going to turn the floor over to Charlie. I didn't mention to everybody, we had the opportunity yesterday to go through the warrant article by article to see, at least note which ones are ready for a vote. So my hope tonight is that we'll get as many done as we can. If we run out of time, we stop. But that'll give us a little leg up on what are likely to be more difficult conversations next month about the operating capital and other more significant financial items in the budget or in the warrant. So that's the strategy, basically. So if Charlie, if you wouldn't mind kind of going through the current status of the financial forecast, because I think it incorporates, among other things, conversations you've had with department heads over the last month and a half while we were on hiatus here, and also what the overrides are likely to be, at least in general.
Thanks, Fred. So maybe if it's okay with the Finance Committee, I'll sort of start at a higher elevation, excuse me, and kind of work my way down to the forecast, just to give you a little bit of information on what we're up to. First of all, you know, I've worked directly with Nick Robertson and Rich Waldo while I was working in Provincetown, and there's a part of me that worked hard to encourage them to think about Wellfleet, and and with Cameron Scott, who I initially, when I got his resume, I was like, well, I don't know, but then when I met Cameron, and I said, oh my God, what a wonderful team of young professionals that I believe can work in a collaborative fashion, along with a lot of other good people that you have in this community. And I think sometimes when you go through these traumatic experiences, you can sour on certain issues, but you have a lot of department heads that really care and do a really good job. So I don't know, I just want to say I really do feel that the opportunities are endless, and you're on a good path. I wanted to, and I will say too, is this is like my 42nd year of municipal government service, and I'm sort of, frankly, a little fatigued. I never thought I would be here as long as I have been, and I'm coming close to a year of service in Wellfleet, but we've had some, challenges and some problems and some interruptions, but it doesn't matter. I mean, for me, when I signed up, it was to get the job done and get to the finish line. We've had a number of meetings with the Department of Revenue recently, and now that we have Cameron and Nick actually picking up day-to-day functionality of those offices, we're sort of peeling away layers of work for Mary and Lisa. They are really focused on finishing up the audit process that they've been involved with, which frankly has been interrupted because of the vacancies we've had. But I will tell you, based upon the meetings that we've had in the last couple of weeks, we are very close to closing out the books for fiscal year 2020. And I would say that in the next week, we're going to have that done. And then once we get fiscal year 2020 closed, 2021 is less of a problem. Because remember, Lisa Sauvé has been working for the town of Wellfleet since the fall of 2020. So she was involved at some level in a lot of what happened in fiscal 2021. So anyway, in the next couple of weeks, we hope to close out the books for both of those fiscal years. We'll at that time, when we get that done, we'll provide a more detailed presentation to the select board and to the finance committee on some of the, details of that process. But, I will just keep repeating because it came up last night at a select board meeting. We have found no criminality, nothing of a criminal nature. We have found loads and loads and loads. We're probably close to 1,400 errors and we've been making journal entries to correct all those errors.
Excuse me, Charlie.
Yep.
Charlie, to that point, we talked yesterday, I asked you a question about the correlation between the override requests and the mythical 760,000 that's been getting floated for the last, 6 to 10 months by various sources as missing money. Could you just speak to that number?
Yeah, well,
without being precise necessarily, but.
Yeah, clearly the auditors, the audit report for fiscal 2020 talked about a variance of an unknown variance of $760,000. I'm rounding a little bit, and so to that extent, we have really found that most of those are just errors in coding, in recording, in accounting, at both the accounting level and the treasury level. So as I say, every time we find a mistake, we correct it. And we've found some, just lots and lots and lots of them. But it's been good. I mean, Mary McIsaac in particular was a forensic auditor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for a long time. So the skills that she brings to the table are extraordinary. And then having Lisa Sauvé, who, obviously was I'm a little biased. Lisa and I worked together in Brewster for a long time, but she was the finance director in Brewster, but she knows VADAR, she knows, municipal accounting. So between, those two women, I always say people will come in often and thank me for what I've done. And I'm like, oh my God, I had the easy job. They're the ones that have been in the trenches, scratching and digging and fighting. So,
I don't want to put
goes to those two women. Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but would it be a fair statement to say that the variance between what the auditors identified as missing money and what the final number may eventually be will be kind of an order of magnitude different?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Won't be marginal.
It'll be significant. When you see the detail, on the corrections that we've made, I think it'll give you some sense of optimism in terms of where the problems were and what the nature of it is. And someone had said to me, "Oh my God, Charlie, how come you haven't referred this to the DA's office?" And I said, "Well, because we haven't found anything to suggest that there's anything criminal in nature. And if we did, we're not going to risk our reputation to protect some folks that we don't even know. So we're working for the town of Wellfleet, and you're the agents that we're working for, and that's what we care about. So yeah, I think you'll be pleased with the end result. So.
It'll be nice to put that part of the narrative behind us. Would you like to go on to the forecast itself?
Yeah, if I will, and if I could just kind of close this process. So, on Friday of this week, Mary, Lisa, and I are going to be meeting with our auditors. We're going to give them an update on where we are in our timeline, because what needs to happen is once Mary and Lisa close out fiscal 20 and fiscal 21, we need to have the auditors immediately walk in behind that process to do the audit for fiscal 2021. And so we'll get a better feel of their availability on this coming Friday, but they want to get it done too. And that work product is going to take, 2 to 3 weeks. And our goal, once the audit is done and submitted, even in a draft form, to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we've had multiple meetings recently with the Department of Revenue, and they're giving priority to Wellfleet. They will work hand in hand with us to get free cash certified. So I literally I said to Fred yesterday, I guess, I feel like I'm going to be walking into town meeting with my free cash certification letter. And I think it's going to be close, but I do.
You said you were going to be running in with it, having just
running in, running very slowly. So anyway, I feel like we're on task to do the things that we need to do. So,
quick question about the audit. If the auditors come back in and do that audit and they identify fewer or other material weaknesses per their audit, that doesn't preclude our going forward and getting free cash certified as long as we are demonstrably working to fix problems. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. So, we anticipate that there will be some, I always you want to have comments in your management letter. You want, you want to use that audit process to identify, a few problems. You don't want as many as you had the last time around, because that's a safety net. And we used to use that, whether it's Mary or Lisa or myself, we use the audit to focus on particular areas to make improvements in checks and controls in municipal operations. So, mostly it's a good thing. So, yeah. So I think it shouldn't hinder us from going through free cash certification process.
Great. Shall we speak to the forecast?
Yeah. Okay. So I can't remember when we last met. It's a bit of a blur. Yeah, February?
Mid-February, yeah.
Oh my
23rd.
Okay, well, I think back at that time, when I'd really put the budget and the warrant together, the deficit at that moment was over, off the top of my head, $2 million. Right. The operational deficit was in the $600,000 range, and the capital special projects was close to $1.5 million. So I've been working during that time, and I want to thank all of the department heads for the town of Wellfleet, because I don't know your community as well as they do, and I don't know the issues. So I really have been using team meetings of major department heads to help me come up with a series of recommendations to the select board. And we did that, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what we've done is we've reduced the size of the warrant. I think at one point we had over 66 warrant articles. And I was just concerned that it was way too many warrant articles. And just to give you a sense of proportion, I still am the moderator for the town of Brewster. And we have town meeting coming up on May 14th. And they sent me a copy of the warrant because we got to prep for that. And we have 19 articles on our warrant. So, there's a lot of reasons why our warrant's different than your warrant, but you traditionally have a lot of articles, it appears. But anyway, the selectmen did agree to postpone a number of the articles that were on the draft warrant till next fall. And we've reduced the warrant down to, I think, about 50 articles. Now, and also at that same time, we came up with a plan to take a look at the override. My goal in my mind was to get the override down from 2 million plus down to about $1 million, and I sort of am close to that. So we've made a number of changes to the warrant and the spending plan. And at the current moment, the forecast that I sent to the Finance Committee, it's changed a little bit from last night's select board meeting, but I'm going to go with the document that I sent to you. The operational override is in the range of $486,000. That's for the operational budget. And then the override, I'm going to call it a second override question for capital and special projects is about $523,000. So I'm kind of close to my $1 million target. Now, I would say that I haven't done the research yet, but you haven't had an operational override for a long time. And what you got into the practice of is you have food in the cupboard, and you use it, but you don't replace it. And you are using a lot of one-time revenues to prop up or subsidize the operational budget. Those are beach revenues, solid waste revenues, ambulance receipts revenues. And they kind of were a finger in the hole in the dam, and they got you through a period of time. But when after you consumed all of that product, you end up with a situation where your operational budget is underfunded and not stable. And that's why I really would encourage you to think about supporting an operational override to reestablish the financial footings of the operational budget. And right now that's in the range of $485,000 to $500,000. It's going to change a little bit shortly. And then the same thing, I mean, if you look at how you are funding capital projects, equipment and replacement, things of that, in small repair projects to your municipal buildings and properties, you were doing an article with an override, and then you were borrowing those monies for 5 years. And I think last year at the annual town meeting, we had 13 special project borrowing overrides. Some of them in the range of $10,000 or $15,000, $20,000. So it really, I'm not saying it was an awful decision, but it's definitely not common. So what I'm suggesting is that we go to the voters and ask for really what I call a permanent override for capital equipment and replacements, and that's going to be in the range of $500,000 or $525,000. And so every year you should reserve those funds as a matter of policy to replace cruisers and plow trucks and do small repairs on your municipal buildings. And if there's a year that you end up having some other reserves, and you don't use that $500,000 for a capital project, you should put it in a capital project stabilization fund. So when you have something significant coming down the road. So I think once you do that, you're really in a pretty good place. Sort of the foundational elements of your budget are in a good place. There's still loads of work to do relative to a lot of the fiscal policies. And I think that your local receipts need a lot of work to review. And just as a small example, I spent a lot of time this year with your water commissioners because your water rates haven't been adjusted for a long time. And the water operations is heavily subsidized by the tax levy. So we hired a water rate consultant, and we've had several meetings. We're not quite to the finish line, but it's been collaborative. And we had a presentation to the select board last night where we hope to present a new water rate structure to the select board for approval. And it's going to improve, the water department's performance as an enterprise fund. But every element of it, solid waste, marina, building permit fees, these all need a lot of time and attention. I just didn't have the time to do them all at once. But that'll give Rich and Nick and Cameron plenty to do when they show up. So
Let me interrupt you for a moment. I see Jeff Burns has his hand up, and I want to ask anybody else if they have any questions of you at this point.
sorry, I can't see everybody. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I'll ask, I just had a general question, maybe nearer the wrap up. Why don't you continue on the more, I would ask some higher level moving forward questions, but that can be a little bit later. So keep going.
So,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
well, in looking at the spreadsheet that, you know, for the financial forecast, the FY23 is in yellow. Estimated revenues are down about $1.5 million. It looks, well, a little over, about $1.5 million. And it looks like there was a surplus, if I'm understanding that orange box under projected surplus for FY21, not 22, but FY21. Is that the last year we had any kind of data for?
Yeah, I you know, that column, I just haven't spent as much time, frankly, as I really should have on the detail of that. I was really more focused on creating the pathway for FY23. I will say the one thing I will say about estimated local receipts for FY23 going forward is, you know, you've been spending 100% of your local receipts plus in many cases in the last few years. And so what I've tried to do, if you look at local receipts in FY23, it's $2,532,000. And then in FY24, it goes down to $2,282,000. And I'm trying to back off your use of local receipts, you know, because really, as a matter of practice, you should be using 80 to 85% of your local receipts for spending. And then if you do that as a matter of policy and practice, you're going to end up with free cash. And when you end up free cash, you can use that to augment capital equipment replacement and special projects. And then also, if you have a down year, you know, COVID, you know, room occupancy and meals tax, you have some cushion to deal with those kind of revenue losses. So yeah, FY22 is really weak. I just didn't spend a lot of time on it. So that number is kind of not terribly accurate.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Charlie on anything he said so far?
I do. I just have a question about the project stabilization fund and establishing one. So that to me seems like that would be a priority, right? Like within the next year.
Yeah, I would encourage you to establish that account at the fall special town meeting.
Okay.
And by the way, and if I could also follow up on that. So what I'll do before I leave is I'll take all of the articles that we took off this annual town meeting, and I'll include things like the capital stabilization fund, and I'll prepare a very preliminary draft warrant for the special town meeting. I told Rich that would be his present when he walked in the door. So.
Okay,
that's good.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'll wait. I have to tell you something else.
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, it's a pleasure, by the way.
But now that well, never mind. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that one of the other things that I forgot to mention when you do get a new version of the warrant, and part of our conversations with the Department of Revenue is, you know, we have a budget that maintains municipal operations in FY23, much like exists in FY22. You know, you don't have a lot of capacity, and I just, one of the things I really wanted to avoid is diminishing municipal operations by, you know, because it's gonna, you don't have much capacity. You're gonna cut services to citizens. But when I reviewed that with the Department of Revenue, let's face it, $500,000 of my spending plan that I'm recommending to the Select Board and the Finance Committee is wishful. I'm hoping that voters from the for the town of Wellfleet will approve an override. Well, what happens if the override is not approved? And that's a distinct possibility because, you know, you're going to be voting on that on June 21st, I believe. So yeah, June 21st on your special election.
Right.
If that fails, then we have to cut the budget by that sum of money. So you're going to see a new article in the warrant that I need to work on in the next 10 days. And I'm a little stressed about it, but I need to create an alternative budget. If that override fails, we need a conditional article on town meeting floor that says, if the override isn't approved, then this is the operational budget for FY23. So that's something I'm working on right now. And I am going away for a few days to visit family down in Maryland. So, you know, that's why I said I'm a little stressed about it, but we'll you know, I'll be working, I'm meeting with all the department heads tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'll work, you know, directly with them to come up with some ideas to reduce spending. But I think, you know, there's not too many alternatives in your budget. It's really services and personnel.
Could you, I'm sorry, did someone want to say something?
But I have a question.
Okay.
Are you good with that?
I'm very
so
good with it.
Thank you. So Charlie, you know, you mentioned that we're going to remove some of the articles and push them off to the fall town meeting. I mean, is that kicking the can down the road? Are these integral spending articles that we're moving to lessen the blow, or I mean, what's the theory on that?
Yeah, well, I worked with the department heads, and that a lot of them were zoning and regulatory and bylaw issues, i.e. not spending issues, because I'm just worried that, you know, we're going to have our annual town meeting outdoor on a Saturday, and it seems to me that we need to get that done in one day. So a lot of them are of that nature. And then you're going to see in the newspaper tomorrow, actually, that Wellfleet is a recipient of a really significant federal grant. It's really exciting news. Most of it is focused on the Herring River Restoration Project, but some of the rest of it is going to deal with a number of the capital projects that we pushed off to the fall. They're mostly water quality, stormwater, protection projects. And so, and then the other thing too is there's some real other grant opportunities that are out there. You know, there's a lot of ARPA federal money out there. So I think the ones that we pushed off, you know, not entirely, but we think would have some opportunities for funding via other means.
Okay, because I would think it would be important to take this in a whole nut and not continuing to keep going back and belaboring the same, you know, the number's going to be what it is. So I just rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, the one change that the select board made last night, frankly, kind of reflects that issue, Kathy, is one of the reduction plans that I had recommended to them was, you know, to decrease the funding for the OPEB trust fund, other post-employment benefits trust fund. And you traditionally have committed $200,000 to that a year. And you should be committing that kind of money to that. I decreased that to $50,000 per year. And initially the select board said, yeah, that's fine. But last night they said, you know, that's going to be hard to address going forward. And we really should be saying to the voters, you should fund it. And so that's when I had said, kind of hinted that there's going to be some changes. Yeah. That's one of them. And I will say, you know, I know we all kind of look at, you know, all of the bad things that have happened and all the problems that have occurred. But actually, Wellfleet has almost $2.8 million in your OPEB trust fund, and your total gross liability is in the range of about $9 million. And you've done well compared to many other towns, even Brewster, frankly. So, you know, you've done a good job there. And we didn't put any money in OPEB last year. And it's time to get back in the saddle on that one.
And I think we did make a conscious decision to calculate that and overfund it and then say, so that was the first, when we needed to, back off a little bit, that was an easy place to say, let's just not do it for a year, but I would hate to continue to decrease the unfunded liability. So
Yeah, the select board sort of did a course correction last night on that. And I think they were right to do that.
Yeah, if anything, it might be increased going forward, because you say the estimated liability is about 9 million.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 in there, although we are ahead of other towns, but
yeah,
that number's not going to shrink in terms of liability.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
But just to be clear on the override question, understanding that there's an operating deficit in the capital budget, are you going to be asking in a single article, say, for $1 million override to clear the books, basically? Because some of these capital budget deficits are based on requisitions at this point. Is that if you were to cut all of the capital requests, you wouldn't have the deficit?
Yeah, that's right.
So, but the operating deficit is what it is, right? I mean, you can't really get away from it without cutting services, if I understand.
That's right. Yeah, you could not replace a truck. You could not fix a furnace. You could do all those things. But the operational budget is a direct service provision. Yeah.
So you'll ask for a specific override there. And how would the capital budget be structured then? Will it be vote by vote, item by item, or
no?
I've
sort of structured that so that when you go to the very back of your warrant, right now I have 5 override questions. The first one will be $485,770. That's going to change for the operational budget. So that's saying to voters, hey, can we have more taxing capacity for the operational budget? The second question will be that $522,700. I'll probably round it up, and that's to fund equipment replacement, facility repairs. So I'm doing each of those items separate.
Okay.
Yep. There's other overrides too, but we can talk about that later.
So let me just throw this out to the committee at this point. Would you like to continue talking about the forecast, or should we segue to starting to look at the warrant?
I just wanted to ask another question about the the ops override and the capital. But if free cash has not been certified, once it's certified, if there's more there, wouldn't it affect these figures here?
No, it won't. And when I show you that, when we probably won't want to do it tonight, but when I go over the capital budget, you'll see that some of them I have as raise and appropriate, i.e. the capital override, because I think those are priorities and critical. Some of those, if we have free cash, we'll use free cash. So if you don't have free cash, you'll see me, I'll make a recommendation at town meeting. And I am, right now, I'm projected to still be working sort of part-time through town meeting. Then we'll have to we'll have to amend the capital budget at town meeting to delete those. Okay. But I'm sort of optimistic, to be honest with you.
I got a quick question. I presume what you were talking about is the big grant coming from USDA, like $29 million.
Yeah.
And the other question I have, which is wonderful, but the question I have is with the ARPA funds, do you know how much Wellfleet is going to get out of that 10 million? Or
well,
like pennies?
They haven't voted on it yet, but the county has 41, I think it's 41 or $42 million in ARPA funds. And right now the conversation has been that Wellfleet will get, our proportionate share of 10 million as a direct allocation. And I don't know what that number is. I used to know, but I don't remember what it is. And then the other $31 million, the communities can apply for direct grants from the county commissioners. So, I think there's some opportunities there on wastewater and housing, but we'll see.
Do the ARPA funds go directly into free cash, or do they have to be allocated for specific uses?
Those will be allocated for very specific defined uses.
Okie dokie. I would suggest we can start looking at the warrant, because I think some of the questions that are already in play with the forecast will reemerge in a different way when we start looking at the articles in the warrant, the ones that we can. If that's acceptable to everybody, I would say
Go for it.
Oh, Fred, go.
Go to your warrants.
Mark, set, go. Which article are we starting with?
Someday I won't be the chair anymore.
Someday I won't be the town administrator anymore.
There we go. Charlie, fist bump, fist bump.
We'll get together.
Charlie, you're going to miss us.
I will, actually.
Probably will. All right. On page 8, Articles 1 and 2. Well, actually, Article 1 is the operating budget, and it's not there yet. So we don't have to worry about it. We didn't worry about it last year. Why worry about it this year? And according to my notes, so I think I mentioned before, Charlie yesterday to see what
Somebody's falling down the stairs.
What's that?
Somebody's falling down the stairs.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my notes say, Charlie, and you are the ultimate source on whether you agree or not. The transfers, as I understand it, Article 2, except for the question mark around the county assessment there, are pretty much done. Is that a fair statement?
Those are done, and I have that number as well. So that where that question mark is $40,000.
Could you just speak to what the numbers are and how they were allotted?
Yeah, so the new total there will be $256,973. So what these are is, if you really look at the column that says 2, and we have a whole bunch of budgetary shortfalls for the current fiscal year. And let's face it, you know, a lot of people did good work under a lot of pressure last spring to put a budget together and have your town meeting, but there were a lot of deficiencies in the budget. So, you know, you can see if you look at A, I'll just example, A, I have extra money in the Nauset Regional School District expense line item, and I want to use that $70,000 to fund the deficit in the property and liability insurance expense. So that's how that works. The column on the left is where we have some surplus revenues, and the column 2 is where we want to plug holes in the operational budget. So, you know, it's really a lot of money, $256,000. But the nice thing is, believe it or not, we double budgeted for the capital expense for Nauset, and we double budgeted for the county assessment expense. And while that was a mistake last year, under the pressure that you're all working under, it's a godsend because we have these significant shortfalls in the current fiscal year. So I could go over any one of them, but these are all. Yeah.
Let me ask one generic question. I mentioned earlier that when we were meeting with department heads last year, a number of them, especially in the larger departments, did not have access to their actuals from the previous 2 years, nor their year-to-date numbers for that fiscal year, because everything was just so screwed up. Are some of these expenses the result of actually finding out what their actuals were and having to transfer money in to pay for stuff that they committed to?
Some of them are, yeah, probably half of them.
Okay, yeah, that's how they read. Some of them also look like they might have just been surprises. Let me see.
I think we talked about the insurance one being a surprise. The insurance hadn't been audited for a while, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and the DPW truck repair, for example, looks like it could have happened in the middle of the year and not been budgeted for.
Yeah, that the DPW facility expense and the DPW highway expense were just big surprise problems that presented themselves to the town.
Yeah, that's how they read. Okay. I just wanted to be clear what we were actually looking at here.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, and we do get these every year, Fred, this is not going to affect the tax rate. You're just switching money from one line item to another, right?
Yeah,
That's correct.
absolutely. I just want everybody to be clear what we're voting for here before we vote for it, because this was one
So
of the,
I move article number 2 as written.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote the way I read it here. Ira?
Aye.
I will say yes. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff? Tash?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes, aye.
Aye.
I think I have to jump over you, Jeff, because you're an alternate, but we have a full staffing here. So I think we have all 9 full-time members. So thank you for being here, but I guess you don't get to vote tonight. Jen?
Yes.
And Linda?
Yes.
Okay, so 9-0 to approve.
Thanks.
Article 3, prior year invoices. I think this is another one, Stephen, that's in similar ways. We owe the money. I'm not sure that we have a whole lot to say about it. If anybody has any questions about these invoices, they don't amount to.
Yeah, what's the one for $145? Just kidding.
That's the only one I can't answer.
Somebody wants to make a motion to
I move that we accept Article 3 as written, or whatever.
Second.
Okay, Ira?
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Bob, you have your hand up.
Yeah, that means aye.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, okay. You just moved on my screen, damn it. Who did I got? Steven?
Yes, aye.
Bob, we got an aye. Jen and Linda.
Yes.
Aye.
Harmony, Frank, thank you. 9-0 to approve Article
3.
Article 4, I have a note in my thing that says not yet. Capital.
I have the same note.
Make all kinds of sense. Just a couple of things very quickly about the capital budget. I think you had said you weren't introducing it as a line item, if I'm correct. It'll be vote for the capital budget or not for the capital budget. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There is an item in there. It was noted by a few members of the committee. 6D, the recreation bandstand awning replacement project. It's our recollection that, use any metaphor you like for something you try to flush down and bounces back up. But we voted on this, we believe, based on the description, we voted on it over several years. It seems to keep coming back. And I just want to note that the finance committee, without taking a position whether an awning is a good thing or a bad thing, believed that alternate funding should have been found, or it could be a CPC thing, or it could be privately funded or whatever. But we have never said that we recommend that town funds be used for the awning.
Got it.
Just want to note that. I believe in Article 5 and 6, I have a note that says we have the May meeting. That is the Water Enterprise Fund and the Marina Enterprise Fund, that they're not fully cooked yet. Is that right?
Fred, your mic is breaking up badly, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if you can adjust it.
I don't know if I can either. It's, you know, it's my computer. What can I say? Or what can I say?
Turn the volume up, maybe? No?
I just turned it down, actually, to see if that helps.
Oh.
Wait, here we go. Input volume.
There you go. That's
Does
better.
that sound any better?
Yeah. A little bit.
Sounds better.
Okay, I'll try to talk less.
That would be good for everyone.
Articles 5 and 6 of the Enterprise Fund. My understanding from our meeting, Charlie, was that they're not ready to go.
They're not ready.
And I think we need to meet with them anyway. I don't believe we've met with the Marina or the Water Enterprise Fund folks.
Yep.
So that'll be our May meeting probably, or part of it. Similarly, Articles 7 to 11, all of the union negotiation articles, there are 4 in a row or 5 in a row, are not finished at this point. So we can bypass those.
Okay, so let me just, I would be comfortable in just voting them all because we have no influence over these things. Whatever they negotiate, that's what it is. So if you have a financial you have a number attached to these. I mean, I doubt we're going to go in and say, no, we should do it for less.
That's a fair comment. No, that's totally fair. Does anybody have
so many
to voting on the union contract negotiation articles? We can do them en masse just on that.
Sounds inappropriate, frankly.
Are the numbers
on something that's not in front of us?
Yeah.
Hold on, one at a time.
I mean, I can understand saying that we don't have a recommendation. That would be fair, but to vote on something that we don't have in front of us seems.
So what we usually do with these.
Ira, I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with Mo. If we don't have the numbers.
All right, then we will bypass them.
All right, never mind. Move on.
Let's just come back to this when we have the numbers.
Yeah, and that's how we were going to work it anyway. So
we do it right before town meeting.
Yeah, usually, we do it in the little chairs in the library, right?
In the library.
Even made a coherent suggestion, and I wanted the committee to weigh in, and we did. We'll move on. Article 12 is the OPEB. And what is it currently? Is it back to 200K?
Yeah, the selectmen last night voted to put it back to what it has traditionally been, $200,000.
I think it was 100 last year. So I mean, it traditionally 200, but I don't believe it was in the last budget.
I think the last budget was 0.
Yeah.
Right. I think Charlie's right. I moved
so anyway,
approve Article 12 as written for 200,000.
Is there any discussion at all? Is there anyone who has anything to say about the funding for OPEB? Okay, so I'll
just confirm. This is what we have been setting aside every year except for last year.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And by the way, it's insufficient to actually get there, but we're racing to the horizon. It's keeping us in pace with paying our.
As Charlie said, we're better than most other towns. So, yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. So if we want to take some pride from that, we're better than other towns, but we're not fully funding OPEB. It should be more than 200 a year to be fully funded. Anyway, blah 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 blah. We have a motion to approve Article 12. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to do a different order because Bob, you popped up to the upper left. Bob.
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy.
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Okay, 9-0 to approve Article 12.
For 50,000.
No, 200,000. I made the motion that we approve it. Article number 12 with the figure of 200,000.
Well,
that was clear. I'm sorry.
Question on the document, on the select board, it says insert 500, recommend 302. What does that mean?
Where are you looking?
Well,
that's
12.
Yeah, the selectmen have a kind of a two-step process. They control the creation of a town meeting warrant. Okay. So the first step is, do they agree to insert an article into the warrant? It's just a procedural matter. And then do they recommend it? And they've changed that recommendation to 500. So they recommend $200,000.
Yeah, that's new. We've never seen that in the past. In terms of insert 5, whatever.
They asked me to do it. I don't know. I just.
Okay, so if I understood the concern, we didn't explicitly call out that we were voting for $200,000 as opposed to the 50 as stated there.
No, I changed the amount to 200,000 when I made my motion.
Oh, so okay, good.
I move Article number 12 with the sum of 200,000.
Okay, so we don't have to revise our vote. Article 13.
I'll move to accept that one. This is what Charlie's been talking about for months.
Just to be clear, I gotta find.
Stabilization fund.
Stabilization fund.
Yeah, it's the transfer to the stabilization fund.
Well, that will be, as long as we have free cash certified, our priority is to get this money back in stabilization fund.
Right, because we used it up, right? That's
Yes,
basically it.
So this may be a null and void article at this town meeting if we don't have free cash certified?
That's
Or is
correct.
this just a permission to do so once you have?
No, we have to have the money certified when we walk into town meeting floor.
Okay.
If we don't, we'll indefinitely postpone this article.
Okay, so we can vote to recommend it on the assumption that you'll have free cash certified, and if you don't, our vote is null and void anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments, questions, or can we recommend?
I think Jeff did already recommend it, didn't he?
Did you? I didn't
I
hear.
moved it. I don't think it's been signed.
Yes, he moved
Okay,
it.
second?
Second.
Okay. Bob?
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff? Jeff?
Aye.
Oh, Stephen?
Yes, aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Let me turn my page here. Articles 14 and 15 are related in a sense. They are authorizations for new staff for the police department and the fire department. I believe we've addressed these in the past at our meetings.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah, we did.
So I would recommend that we can vote, we can put both of them up as a unit to get our recommendation, because I can't imagine we're going to vote one down and vote the other one up unless you guys think otherwise.
Well, geez, which select person voted against it for the police?
The absenteeism.
Oh, it's an absentee ballot? Okay.
Just for clarity, I want to let you know the select board changed their vote last night and unanimously supported it.
Okay.
As I understand this article, it's part of the new law. There's a new police and fire thing.
Right.
We need to staff. It's not up to us. It's been handed down to us that we don't really have an option to not do this. Charlie, am I correct in that?
Well, partially. So particularly police reform legislation created a situation where you traditionally have had a lot of seasonal police officers, part-time seasonal police officers, and those are no longer allowed under the reform law. So I think you still have one left, but they're essentially gone. And so the chief, is dealing with, really significant problems. And now the problem is you need to staff for the summer, and you have to do it year round.
Yeah, and actually, if I recall our conversation with Chief Hurley, even if we approve this and get the staff in place, by the time they're trained and whatever, they won't be here for this coming summer anyway.
No.
It'll be 2023 before we even see them on the beat.
We need to take this. We need to take this up to the state level, or that's ridiculous. But okay, I digress.
Not tonight, though.
Yeah. So actually, I had suggested we look at Articles 14 and 15 together, but Article 16, the paramedic training program funding, we've already approved that or recommended it in a previous vote earlier. So I would recommend we vote on all three as a package, if that's okay.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
I say aye. Kathy?
Aye.
No?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Okay, so 9-0 for 14, 15, and 16.
So I thought your motion was to consider them all together.
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
We voted on all three as a package, but you can't vote on them as one thing because they're three articles. It's kind of like the same thing we do with the CPC, I suppose. So the fire engine replacement, as I understand it from our conversation yesterday, the ambulance fund is going to be used to fund all or part of this article, or is that not true?
Your memory is excellent. Yeah. Sorry, you'll be sick of me very soon. But anyway, yes.
Sick of me too. So it's like whatever. Anyway.
So yeah, the fire with the select board's support, we'd like to get back to reserving all of our revenues for ambulance receipts to replace equipment and for the fire department. But anyway, so we would use ambulance receipts to pay the debt or the lease purchase on this project.
That to be clear, it's not a purchase, it's a lease purchase kind of deal. So
what we're doing is I'm going to change the language briefly, shortly. It's going to either authorize borrowing or a lease purchase. You know, they're sort of similar in nature.
Yeah, and the reason I asked is because we clearly don't have $745,000 in the ambulance fund at present. So yeah. it gets to be like a wimpy burger. I'll pay you Tuesday for a fire engine today.
Yeah, what we'll do is we're going to buy the ambulance, of course, out of ambulance receipts. That's in the capital budget. And then if we have some extra money, we'll make a down payment with some additional funds for this project. And then we'll either borrow or lease purchase the balance. And we'll use revenues over a several year period to pay for it.
So on the lease purchase option, does that mean then the equipment can be upgraded over the years as opposed to outright owning it?
Well,
lease purchase or? Yeah,
well, it's really the lease purchase is one option, but they're not dissimilar. A lot of time I don't care for lease purchase, to be honest with you, but that I won't be here. But the lease purchase is a special provision of the law that says if the town ever doesn't appropriate the money to pay the lease payment, the leasing company will come back and take the fire truck. You're not obligated to future years, but it's kind of hocus, situation. But anyway, what I would say to Rich Waldo, if he's still listening, is work with leasing companies and then look at bonding options and pick what is in the best interests of the town at that time.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have an issue with voting on this article at this time with all of the caveats that we just identified here?
I'd like to wait.
You'd like to wait? What information would you like to have that we don't have now? I'm not saying that as a challenge. I'm just curious.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know what. Well, it's coming out of the ambulance fund, right?
Yes.
Eventually, it is. It can't come out of the ambulance fund right now. As I understand it, we're going to be committing ourselves to a significantly smaller amount of money initially because it'll either be lease purchase or whatever. You won't be spending the whole $745,000.
But that's what this says, to appropriate the sum of $745,000.
But then it says and to authorize the treasurer with the select board's approval to borrow that sum of money.
Okay, so it would have to. This is going to have to be a warrant article for a money transfer anyway, right?
Well, let me ask you a question. Maybe this is something that needs to be in the article or not. If it's coming out of the ambulance fund, is it going to be a pay-as-you-go kind of thing? Let's say we're able to get it, and then in the next year, magically, $745,000 appears in the ambulance fund. Do we then just pay it off and we're done with that debt? It's not a 20-year debt or whatever?
It'll probably be more of a 7 or an 8 year note. And it depends on the term when you go out to bid. Sometimes depending on the market, you can have a prepayment option, but you have to gauge the market as you're out there. So
the lender kind of has the say on this then.
Yeah, we work with our financial advisor to look at the marketplace and see what's most advantageous to the town. Sometimes when you do that, there's a the borrowing market wants a prepayment penalty. So you've got to, that's what I'm saying here is, town meeting is going to say, oh yeah, you can replace the truck, but your finance people and your town administrator are going to have to work within the market that exists to figure out what the best option for the town is.
How stable is this number with all the, inflation's going through the roof?
I have no idea.
We need to talk.
I'm with Kathy, I guess, maybe. Why don't we just...
I'm not opposed to, I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm not opposed to the truck. I think I'm opposed to the unknowns in the article.
So
yeah, I'm not opposed.
Let me suggest that instead of getting bogged down with this article tonight, because we don't need to, the people who have concerns about it, look at how it's worded and see what guarantees in the wording would make you feel better about it. Because I think there are a lot of open questions. One that just popped up was we've sort of made an emotional commitment. We're not going to raid the ambulance fund for spurious reasons. But if we're not using up the whole ambulance fund, which does generate a lot of cash every year, it's going to sit there and grow, which is good, I guess. But in effect, it becomes, I don't know, a rainy day fund that may never get used. It could, if we're only spending 150,000 out of it for debt service, and it grows at 500,000 a year, where does that other 350 go year over year over year?
So Fred, that's not, so the language that is to vote to appropriate the sum of. So that's not, makes it sound like it's a borrowing article. So I'm confused if appropriate it, are we moving it from the ambulance fund and appropriating the remainder of the additional costs?
I assume what we're doing is...
I thought Charlie said what's going to happen is the ambulance fund right now is going to be used to purchase an ambulance first, and what's left over is going to be used as a down payment on the fire truck. Did I make that up, or was that?
No, you're correct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, so okay.
So,
all right, never mind.
It's going to be a borrowing article no matter how you look at it.
Right.
So
and we do need a new fire truck. So
then I'm fine.
Okay, well then I would.
So I move article number 17.
A second, Kathy?
I'll second it.
There you go.
Thanks, Kath.
Bob?
Aye.
Aye. Kathy? Obviously.
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Okay. Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen, if you're there, I can't see the top of your head anymore. She must have walked away. Linda?
Aye.
Okay. If she comes back,
There she is.
hi. Would you? Okay, we got a 9-0. The next two are ready to go, but I think you may want to, or at least the next one, the flora fauna survey. That's Article 18. Could you speak to what this is, Charlie? And how it's different than what we voted on last year?
Yeah, I'd prefer that maybe you asked the Natural Resource Advisory Board. I might not do this justice.
Okay.
The other question I have is, go ahead.
I don't want to be disrespectful to the need, so.
Has anybody approached SPAT and asked them to help pay for this?
No idea.
I mean, we should try to find alternative sources if we can.
Yeah. So I think I won't be spending too much more time on this, but I think it's worth reaching out to that nice group.
No, that's fair. This seems like one of those articles where we're not going to understand what we're voting for unless we ask the specific person, to your point.
Yeah.
Article 19, Chapter 90 funds.
Yeah, so that is our share of state bond transportation. There's a formula, it's road miles and population and all kinds of things. But anyway, that's our annual share of the state Chapter 90 appropriation. So it's real money from the state. So I would encourage you to support it.
I move article number 19 as written.
I'll second. Bob?
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Yes, aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen? Jen?
Sorry, aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Thank you. 9-0. Let's see, 19, 20. Oh, 20 is the cable fund. This is almost like a housekeeping kind of article. This,
Where's the money part?
140,000.
Yeah. Do you want me to briefly explain this?
yes, please.
Oh, I see, it's on the other.
Yeah, sorry. If you take a look at your cable bill, if you have cable, if your cable bill, there's a surcharge. I think it's 5% on your cable bill. That money is collected by the cable companies and sent to the towns to provide public education, government access. So anyway, this is money that comes from Comcast. About half of it goes to what used to be the Nauset public channel. I was told recently that's relocating, which is concerning. And then the other half is retained in the town, and that's how we provide, once we get back operational, our public broadcasting of public meetings, which we're going to be doing very soon. So we not only use it to provide those services. I'm in the process of upgrading so we can have virtual meetings at the Adult Learning Center, the COA building, but I'm told it's now the Adult Learning Center. So we're upgrading that equipment there, so we'll be able to hold virtual meetings. People can participate in person or virtually, but we're going to pay for that upgrade using these monies from Comcast.
I think it's appropriate that it should be the Adult Learning Center because I've heard there are no children in Wellfleet. So
it's true.
Anybody have any questions about the cable access article? If not, I would love a motion to recommend it.
So moved.
I'll second. Again. Okay, thank you, Linda. Bob?
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Finance
So-
committee. Radically.
So does this mean now that we're going to have adult entertainment at the Adult Learning Center?
By default, that's exactly.
Apparently there are no adults in Wellfleet either, right?
Yeah.
The Wellfleet Follies of 2023. We've got the constituency to produce that. Okay, the next article is Article 21, which is the Shellfish Revolving Fund. I don't think we've ever voted against it, but I'm happy to hear anybody who thinks otherwise.
I'll move article number 21.
Okay, I'll second again. Bob?
Pass.
Aye for me. Kathy?
I just had to step away. What did I miss?
It's Article 21, the Shellfish Revolving Fund.
Okay. Do you need an aye?
Okay, Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Article 22, the Elementary School Fire Suppression System.
Is that 9-0 or 8 and 1?
801.
9-0. Was there an absence?
No, Bob did.
I can't
Bob
vote on
abstained.
self.
Yeah,
You're right. I'm so sorry. My bad.
I thought I heard that, and I just wanted to get it accurately. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for keeping me honest on that one. I almost said, well, if Bob says aye, who am I to say no?
Yeah.
There you go. The elementary school fire suppression system, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. It is what it is. It's currently at 2.2 million. It'll be bonded, obviously. But there's no choice that I'm aware of to doing it.
I move to recommend.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Linda. Bob?
Aye.
Aye. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Steven?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Okay. At least. I'm not gonna say.
Question.
Yeah.
Can we use some of the federal money towards that, or is that not kosher?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
Might be a good purpose for it.
Yeah. Let me, in a couple of weeks, I'll spend some time on it, if that's all right. Because I got to get the warrant posted, but I'll try to look into that for you.
Thank you.
Good. Article
23.
23.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to delay on that. We haven't met with Will and the Marina Enterprise Fund yet anyway. And the amount, as I believe, is significantly more than was previously proposed or approved.
Well, we appropriated 526,208 already. Looks like they're looking for, they need more money to complete
Correct,
the job.
an extra 334,000. I think that's a
Right.
question that needs to be posed to the Marina Direction Department and not to Charlie, for example.
I have a question on this.
Yes.
We already approved a certain amount of money for this. And
Yes, we did.
And that didn't happen. And at the time, I believe it was close to 3 years ago, there were concerns that our liability insurance were not going to cover those old tanks anymore.
Right.
And I cannot speak to why it's taken this long to get this done or why it's jumped $330,000. I think this is, again, this is something we have to have the Marine.
It could be that they're not underground, that they're not going to be above ground. I'm wondering if I heard that they're going to be buried like the old ones were.
I haven't heard that. I thought they were going to be on.
Jeff, I think you're right. I remember that because they didn't want to have them up top.
Have them up above it. But then I have a question for Charlie. So if we already appropriated the $526,000 3 years ago, is that money sitting in an account somewhere, or is it just?
It's encumbered funds.
Yeah, there was an authorization to borrow, but we've only borrowed a small amount of that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't.
We went out to bids, and the bids were very high, but I didn't work on that. Rebecca, Roughly, and Will have been working on that.
Okay, I just wanted to, hey, if we can find an account with $500,000 in it, that would be cool.
So do you want me to just ask Will why the increase?
That would be helpful, sure.
Okay.
And if he feels like he needs to come in and talk to us in greater detail, he's certainly welcome.
Well, it's kind of a project that we do have to do. I mean, it's not like,
No, true, but that's a big jump, $330,000. It would be useful to know why.
334. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I guess it's probably analogous to why the elementary school suppression system went from about $1 million to $2 million in a year as well. It's just like,
well, that would be a good example.
Projects are going that way.
That would be a good example of what this town has historically done, because they had years ago, they had the opportunity to replace it and the selectmen turned it down. And at that point, it was only like 900,000.
There you go.
So this is the cost of delaying maintenance.
And with supply chain issues and whatnot, they've been, this is going to be a common theme on a lot of capital things that get delayed. Not to say we need to vote yes on every capital item, but there you go. Article 24 and 25 are kind of similar in that, well, actually, we voted on the Keller's Corner revetment project in the past. I guess this is another one of those ones that keeps popping up because it just never got done. But we voted to recommend it last year at least. I'm going to say almost 2 years ago, maybe.
And Fred, if I could just ask, we delay consideration 24 because I think that project was just funded by that grant that you read about a moment ago.
Oh, okay.
So give me a little time on that. I think we might be in good shape there. So.
Then the question I have is, we did do some funding. Have they started the project, or are they looking, like, because we did vote on this 3 years ago, I thought.
I don't know.
Okay.
That was just the engineering, the 50 grand.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me I think this might go away. Let me check and I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Article 25.
See if you can find out who Keller is. Okay.
And why he needs the revetment every freaking year. Article 25, Lieutenant Island Heron Point Road Survey Expense. Could you explain what this is? I don't think we've ever, it's $3,200. So
yeah.
Throw people money around, but
yeah, well, the rights for the Public Access Committee. There's a question. A number of folks use this access point to get out on the water for a variety of purposes. But there's a question about the town's interest in this area. And so we really need to do an official layout to identify where the town's rights are versus the road out there. So
it is literally a survey.
It is a survey.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing because in this area here, if the town doesn't preserve its rights to the water, they get eroded. So I would support this. I would recommend that we vote for article number 25.
If no one has any objections, I'd take a second on that one.
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Chan?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Okay, everything to recommend Article 25. You may have noted that we have not yet met with the Community Preservation Organization yet. I was explicitly advised by Lisa Sauvé to wait. They're still resolving certain questions of what funds are available for these projects. Again, nothing radical, but it's not done yet. So Lisa specifically said, given a choice between addressing these in April or May, she said, wait till May. So I'm going to suggest that we hold off on all of these articles, the CPC articles, which run out to 33 until our next meeting.
Well, I'll vote for that.
Okay. Article 34. A point that Charlie brought up yesterday. However this was done, the Finance Committee was invited to make a recommendation on every article. And I said, and I believe this is true, that historically we pretty much don't vote on articles.
Right. We should only be voting on articles that have a financial impact on the town.
Right.
Correct. So you'll see Finance Committee recommends the number of places where it makes no sense. And I would say that Article 34 would be the first one of those that jumped out, where there is no money involved. It's a land transfer article, and I don't believe there's any need for us to vote on it. So
I agree.
when you see anything like that, ignore it. Okay?
Should we vote to not recommend, to not have a recommendation, or can we just ignore it?
Ignore it.
We
It
shouldn't
depends
be
on
on
whether
it
Shirley
at
is going
all.
to excise Finance Committee recommends from these articles. That's a good question. I mean, if it says Finance Committee recommends on an article where we wouldn't be inclined to vote, Are you just going to say we reserve our recommendation or we don't have an opinion?
No. That's getting into voting on something that doesn't have a financial impact on the town.
I agree.
Anything
I'm just
get
asking
rid
in
of
terms
it.
of form here.
And if I could, Fred, I just put FinCom in every one of these because when I worked in Brewster, the town charter in Brewster said the finance committee had to vote on every single article.
Oh, okay.
So that was just me not knowing the difference.
Or take it off.
So yeah, I'll just take out the reference to FinCom.
Cool. Thank you. Article 35, the same. There's no vote required as far as I can tell. Articles 36 and 37.
Okay.
36 makes sense. I mean, it's just
yes,
basically cash flow, and you know, why should the town employees have to, you know, incur the cost of that?
that's correct. It's basically it's paying the police for work they do in season.
Yeah, I'll move to pass. I mean, I'll move that motion.
Okay, second. Bob?
Aye.
Aye for me. This is Article 36. Kathy?
Aye.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Easement for the Harry River
Restoration.
there's no requirement for us to vote there, and in light of the fact there's a lot of commentary going on in town right now about the Herring River project, pro and con, but in light of the fact that we got this 29 million or whatever, and the debate is changing, and the finance committee hasn't really been asked to date because the numbers haven't been there in any finality for us to vote on, but there's nothing, I can't see any reason for us to vote on Article 37.
Well, actually, this could have a financial impact on the town, because if the town decides to go by eminent domain, then we're going to have to come up with cash.
So there's a question.
Meeting.
Do we vote on the speculation that we'll have to come up with cash, or do we vote on an article that actually requests the cash?
Potential to have a financial impact on the town, but I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know what that is yet.
I'd say let's wait. Let's get a little more information before we.
I would agree with Fred.
Okay. Article 38 is to rescind debt authorizations. This is like a good thing, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a vote to recommend this, because this is money that
so moved.
If you understand, this is money that was authorized and not used, or never went forward. So I've got
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob.
Aye.
Aye for me. Kathy?
Yes.
Mo?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Ira? Ira?
Aye.
Thank you. Jen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Thank you. 9-0.
Can I ask you a quick question of Charlie?
Yes.
Charlie, when we rescinded debt that we didn't spend, and then going back to the article on the water tanks, right? That they've waited to, and I know you probably can't answer this, but it's going to be like a question and a statement. We're raising and appropriating these monies at town hall and at town meeting, and then the projects aren't getting started for 2 years later, which increases the cost. Have you seen an issue since you've been here in town with issues because we're spending more because projects aren't vetted appropriately for the timing, and then those costs are going up? Is that a problem that is systemic?
I can't give you a great answer. The fuel tanks clearly are one of those, but I do think there was some complications with the tanks that I do not understand because I didn't work on it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to know, because now we're rescinding debt, so I'm expecting this debt to come back in some way, shape or form, and as a larger dollar amount later down the road. I was just thinking it was top of mind. So I digress, and I will go back to the warrant. Thanks.
Yeah, any comment I have would be sort of
anecdotal.
I wouldn't give a lot of weight to it.
Okay.
The next article that actually potentially requires a vote of the Finance Committee is Article 45. And it has to do with the use of
45 or 39?
45. All the stuff in between is non-Finance Committee related, as far as I know.
Article 39 is, because it does,
but there's no
again,
money
eminent
attached
domain.
to it.
Expenses related to the acquisition of the necessary property.
But there's no figure attached to it.
Right, but you're voting on something that could have a financial impact on the town down the line.
Yeah, but there's no figure attached to it. They have to negotiate, and it could be a long time away.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how we can vote on an article that has no money attached to it. What would we be recommending in that case? Because we don't know what, we already said we weren't going to vote on a few articles earlier because
okay, let's go on to the next.
We could vote for them to get the best deal possible.
Yeah, there you go. Article 45 is about how the short-term rental monies will be allocated. I'm going to suggest it being now 10 to 9, that this is the sort of article that we could end up talking about for a long time. And I think this might be a good place. We've done a reasonable night's work on getting through a number of articles. This might be a good time for us to adjourn and revisit this later, or actually get to the next part of the agenda, which is one of the next meetings will be, and then.
That's certainly better than voting to get a cup of coffee and coming back and talking.
Yeah, I'm going to respect the fact that there are many people who do not want to go past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we're almost.
Yep. Can we get the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust in here and talking to us about some of these? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. It would depend. I think we'd need to be very specific about what the agenda is, because with the Maurice's campground thing, whatever.
That's in September, though. That's not associated with this.
I know, that's what I'm saying, though. There's a lot of moving parts right now in that part of the world between Lawrence Road and Maurice's and the short-term rental stuff and all. They are unrelated and related at the same time, right? I mean, so
actually, when this first came about, weren't they considering 85%?
Yes, indeed, they were.
Yeah, and we pushed back on that,
right,
through a variety of channels.
This looks good to me. I mean, it's back from 85, so.
And I would just say to you on all those articles, we're making some changes to the language, so I would recommend holding off.
Fred, okay. I see Ryan's hand up.
Yes, Ryan Curley is here and he's raising his hand.
I didn't know Ryan was here. All right.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey, so this isn't for the short-term rental fees that the town already collects. These would be for the community impact short-term rental fees on investor-owned properties. They have to own. This is a smaller segment. It would be a collection of new fees. So, if that helps.
It does.
Oh, okay.
I'm still comfortable coming back to this, and
that's fine. Yeah, I'm for
okay.
a journey actually.
So the only other bit of business that we have, well, there's two small bits of business actually. One is I'd like to schedule our agenda for May and June. You know, the dates that we will meet. I think we could do one in May and one in early June, right before town meeting, if that works for you. But so like maybe May 18th is the third Wednesday of the month, and then perhaps June 8th, which is 3 days before town meeting to finish our business.
Mm-hmm. All right, that works.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
May 18th and June 8th. The other thing is, and Ryan's here, he can speak to this if he likes. There's going to be some sort of task force put together to do due diligence on the Maurice's campground proposal. There is a CPA being hired, as far as I know, to go in and take a more detailed look at either their tax returns or their books or whatever, but to come back with a more detailed financial analysis. And then going forward, I know a lot of people have questions, and those questions will hopefully get answered as we move over the next few months. Ryan asked that we, as the finance committee, assign someone from the committee to that task force. If anyone has a special interest in being part of that initiative, this is a good time to say so. It'd be nice to do it tonight, at least to get the person identified, even though you won't necessarily have much to do right away.
Do we know who else is on it?
I don't. Ryan?
Yeah, so I don't have the list in front of me right now. I think it's around 14 people currently. I'm still after a couple others. And the first meeting for that is, what day is today?
The 28th.
It's Wednesday.
27th.
So the first meeting, so there's a walkthrough of the property at Friday at 11. And that's led by the Gauthiers. And then at 1 p.m.
Ryan, I think my question is who's on the committee or on the task force? You said 12 people. Like, who is it?
There's a variety of people. I don't have the list in front of me right now.
Is somebody from the planning board on it?
No. Well,
no.
Well, one is, but they're not going to be available on Friday. So the first meeting is on Friday at 1 at the Wellfleet Preservation Hall. So.
And the walkthrough is at 11 a.m.
Yes.
So is the realtor who's representing the seller, is that person going to be on the task force?
They don't have a realtor representing them.
Okay.
And just for the record, Kathleen Nagel is not getting a commission by the town. She's doing it pro bono. So.
Right. So again, is anybody on this committee interested in being a member of that task force?
I only would be, but I don't think I can make the meetings because they're probably going to pretty much be during the day. Right? So.
Right.
Yes. I think we're going to try to have them basically keep that time slot Friday at 1 about every 2 weeks. And there'll be additional meetings in between with smaller groups.
Yeah, I can see where that might be a challenge for a lot of people.
Even you're going to take one, you're going to leave every Friday afternoon.
Well, if you can even free up the time, I think that's really, for a lot of people, that's the issue.
Plus a focus group of what, 12 people, 13 people? Is that what you're saying? It's a pretty large group of people.
So that's actually to divide up the work because it is a big property. It's and it there's a lot of complexities involved in the transaction. So certain people are responsible for, the coming up with an operation plan for the town to take, because we've committed to running the campground for 6 years. And we need to have an ops plan in place by the time that the town closes on it. So, yeah.
Well, good luck.
Ryan, I guess I'll get back to you and we'll figure it out in terms of how the finance committee can participate. It doesn't look like we're going to have a decision tonight. Okay, with that.
Oh, was that it? Because I do have that little, All right, just a little housekeeping thing about emails.
Oh, yeah.
Please try to refrain from hitting reply all when you get an email from either the committee secretary or the chair for the committee. You could run afoul of the open meeting law. It didn't happen this time, but really you should just reply directly to the person who sent it to you, whether it's Fred or Karen.
That's right. Good point. Thank you.
Sure.
I would love to
Motion to adjourn, so moved.
Yeah.
Second it.
If anybody is opposed to adjourning, please say so. Otherwise, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Bye.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks,
Yes,
Nick.
Charlie
I'm so excited.
and Rich,
Oh,
Nick,
Yeah, thank you
Cameron,
guys for inviting us.
and Ginny, whoever you are. Thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.